Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's 7:30. Let me call to order the Tuesday, June 16th, 2015 meeting of the Merrimack Planning Board. Let me begin by reminding everyone who will speak tonight to sign in, make sure the microphone's turned on, and speak clearly into it. Let me announce that our next Planning Board meeting will be July 7th at 7:30 p.m. in the Matthew Thornton room, which is this room. Let me appoint Nelson and Jeff to voting positions for tonight, filling in for Mike and the vacant full Planning Board position. So we've got 7 voters. Let me also announce for the benefit of the audience that items 6 and 7 on our agenda, which is the Lavoie proposal and the Flatley proposal, have both requested continuances. And so if you're here to see or discuss or comment on those, you probably need not wait around. And with that, Planning and Zoning Administrators report. What do we got, Donna?
The only thing
I saved you the time. There you go.
There you go. The only thing we have are the 3 determinations for the regional impact. They're explained in your packet, so if the board wants to discuss and vote on those 3.
Okay, so we've got 3 recommendations for the Fortin Nitroff site plan, the Lavoie Kennedy subdivision, and the Flatley site plan. What's the will of the board in terms of discussing those? I think from the staff's recommendation, the first 2 are fairly clearly cut, not likely to be of regional impact. And then there's probably some reason for discussing the Flatley proposal as a regional impact. Nelson?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I would agree with the staff's position and recommendation on the first 2. However, I feel that we should consider the Flatley to be a regional impact. The Flatley is a very large development. This is only a small part of it, albeit, but nevertheless, it's part of a larger development. And I think that erring on the side of caution, if you will, I would recommend that we make it a plan of regional impact, or part of a plan of regional impact, and notify the appropriate abutters, regional planning and in the town of Litchfield. As a courtesy, it really doesn't cost us that much, and I think it's a better procedure. Thank you.
Thank you, Nelson. Any other comments on that?
And it doesn't hurt. Yeah.
Mr. Mahan?
Yeah, I would concur with Nelson's assessment. The only thing I would do as a courtesy is contact the town of Bedford because they have significant development at their end of the Route 3. We haven't done it recently, but 7 or 8 years ago we went up there and talked to them about doing some cooperative work in terms of public safety issues, in terms of fire, ambulance, and police protection for that stretch, and seeing if we couldn't work something out in terms of, because of the impacts of the development on both ends of the highway. So not that there's anything to do, there might be nothing to do with it, but I think might be a good idea to let them know that, this thing's finally in the works. I'm sure that there's some people up there are aware of it, but I just think it's a courtesy from my perspective.
Mr. Chairman, just to sort of go with what Councillor Mount said, there is, of course, the fact that if you notify Litchfield, you'll also notify the National Region NRPC. Do we really need to notify Bed? If we're notifying the NRPC plus Litchfield, everybody's going to know. It would be my thought.
Well, they may not necessarily have it on their radar screen, but there's 2 potentially separate processes here. One is the official regional impact determination, which statutorily requires the National Regional Planning Commission, and it makes Litchfield an abutter. And there's also an opportunity, if we decide it isn't of regional impact, but we still want to offer the courtesy of notice to Bedford or anybody else, we could do that as well. And I think that Tim's comment to me is that in his past experience, a courtesy notice to Litchfield might suffice as well as a formal finding of regional impact. And I think it's a little bit less expensive for his department to manage the courtesy notification as opposed to the regional impact notification, because the regional impact notification has some procedural standards he's got to comply with.
Yeah, well, Bedford's in the southern New Hampshire planning district.
Oh.
Yeah.
Not in
So
the
they
Nashua
wouldn't be in
district.
Nashua anyway, so they'd be separate.
Well, and I would suggest that Councillor Mayon's thoughts that giving Bedford a courtesy comment as well would be a great idea.
Why don't we, are there more comments or questions?
Well, I'd just go backing over. I would prefer to notify regional planning as well as Litchfield through the notification process. And as you've pointed out, someone pointed out, Bedford is not in the Nashua region. It's in the southern New Hampshire region. And but if we give a courtesy notice to Bedford and the formal notice to Litchfield and in the National Regional Planning, I would be happy with that.
Okay. Are there other comments or questions?
Do we need formal notice to National Regional?
I think it's,
If
Yeah,
you,
courtesy.
if you make a regional impact recommendation, it's formal to both Litchfield and National Regional Planning Commission. If you do not make a regional determination, you can make courtesy notices to whoever you choose.
yeah. I would say make a formal notification. Yeah, that would be my preference.
Desiree?
Just one question to the effect of notifying abutters in the process. Are they going to, every single house through like Litchfield on the other side of the river right there, is it going to, won't be like that?
No, it
Okay.
doesn't make the property owners abutters. It
No.
makes the town an official abutter.
Okay.
The town of Litchfield.
So that they would share the information.
And
Okay.
Litchfield may, like we did when we heard from the folks in Amherst about the camp project up on the Camp Road, decide it isn't something that they want to weigh in on, and thanks for the notice, and we appreciate it. Move on. For the sake of order, why don't we take apart this and deal with Fortin Nitroff site plan and the Lavoy Kennedy subdivision together, and then we'll address Flatley separately. What's the will of the board with respect to those first two?
I move we don't consider them as regional plans.
Okay, do it with the microphone on.
Oh, sorry. I move we do not consider them regional impact.
Is there a second for that
Second.
motion? Wow. Councilor Mahan's fast on that one today. Okay,
More experience, perhaps.
there you go. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? So the first two are not of regional impact. What is the will of the board, or who would like to make a motion with respect to the Flatley proposal? Nelson?
Now, I will move that we consider the Flatley proposal having regional impact and provide the legal notifications associated with it, and also provide a courtesy notification to the town of Bedford.
Is there a second for that
I'll
motion?
second that one.
Gotcha. Mr. Sebring has got the second on that one. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? 700 for that. Okay, so that deals with our regional impacts, which is the action item on the Planning and Zoning Administrator's report. That brings us to item 3 on our agenda, which is a recommendation to call the performance bond for Valley View Revocable Trust for the emergency access way and roadway improvements. Donna, is there anything that we need to know before we hear from the property, or the
Nope.
developer?
Just some clarification that this performance bond was for the 4-lot subdivision that was handled administratively. So the bond is now due, so that's why it's before you. And then after this, it's the agenda item about the 2-lot subdivision that's been having all the background.
So this is exclusively related to the performance bond, is the first item that we're dealing with? Okay. Would you like to come forward and give us an update on the status of things?
Sorry, am I on?
No.
No.
Push it again.
Is it really bright green?
Light should come on.
It's on now.
Okay, there we go.
Bring it
You've
closer.
got it
Is it
now.
working now?
It is,
You're
but bring it
okay.
a little closer to you.
Okay. How's that? Better?
Perfect, much better.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I did send a letter over. I think you have a copy of it.
Let me
to-
pause you for a second and ask
Sure.
you to introduce yourself. And
Oh, small detail. Pat Panciaco, I'm here for Valley View. I was here last month, and the board graciously gave us a little more time to get our bearings here. I did send over to you, we have made significant progress on the work that needed to be done to complete the secured improvements. What I've attached to my letter here is the punch list that the Public Works Department did provide to my client as to what needed to be done on the road. And if you look at it, it's a couple of pages, and it goes all the way through the final paving, all remaining items that needed to be completed. Everything that was checked off was done since I've had this list since last Friday, and I was waiting to see how we did on the final paving. That's the next issue. But you can see from the list here that most of the items are checked off. There are probably some other ones that have also since been completed, but the items that are remaining really relate to the final paving. And the letter, our plan was, and I think I told you last month, that we were hoping to have the final paving done. It was scheduled for the 12th of June, but as it would happen, weather does get in the way, and all these things tend to tangle up the coordination of getting all this stuff done. Speaking with my client tonight, my understanding is there's a couple of things that have to be coordinated all together at once. You've got to sweep the street, you've got to pave it right after that, and getting all this lined up has proved to be a little frustrating, and of course the weather didn't cooperate. So we are a little bit behind, but we are on the list and just waiting for Brock's Industries to come and pave. As soon as we know the date they're coming, everything else will be coordinated around it, and the punch list will be completed. So that's where we are on the final improvements. And hopefully the board will see that as a lot done in a short amount of time, and a concerted effort by my client to get the work done on the site.
Thank you, Attorney Panciaco?
Yes.
Panciaco did, I got it right.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you.
Who checked the things off of the list?
My client did, as he went through them.
Okay. Have been verified by anybody?
Mr. Fox was out there today, if I understand it correctly. He's been paying attention and watching this. Steve Keach has also been involved and has been copied on all these emails also. He's worked side by side with my client on this project through the whole thing.
Okay.
So what you have outstanding are the items that have circles or less than that. And as soon as the final paving, we get notice that they are coming to do it, everything else will be completed.
I understand the letter from Brock's that talks about a couple of days of rain in the last week or two, but this project has been promised to us to take about 2 weeks starting last July. And I have to believe that there were some clear weather days between then and now, and
There were.
could have been achieved, and even between last month and this month, or January and this month, or any of the other times that we've had the conversation about these are the things that need to get done. So I'm not necessarily thrilled that a week ago on June 9th there was an enormous list, and there's still a good 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, almost 10 items that are not completed on the list.
Well, some of these items can't be done until you get the pavement down, or until we know the pavement is coming. For instance, you don't sweep the street 2 or 3 days before the paving trucks show up. That's sort of the linchpin date,
Yeah.
if you will. But if you would like, I can have my client come up here and go on the record and answer any particular questions you have. He's gone through this with a fine-tooth comb and worked very diligently at it. I understand.
You know, if we were in December or January and you're saying it's too cold to pave, I'd buy that, but it's June. It had, so far, this paving's been going on for how many months of the season already?
I understand that. And Mr. Chairman, you're right in many respects, but the problem we've got now on our hands is we've got too much demand and not enough contractors to go around. It's very difficult to get people out there to get things done because a lot of them found other occupations when the bottom fell out of the market a few years ago. They had to make a living somehow. So now all of a sudden the market really perks up and you got to take a ticket in the line. So there was some items left, but I can assure you we have made a lot of progress, and I do think that we've talked about that. And
Is all the things left on this work that Brock's is going to do, or are they just the paving?
You know what? Mike, can you come up here and go through? I'm going to have my client tell you particularly because he's had his hands on it and I have not. This is the list you gave me. If you can go through the ones that aren't done.
My name is Michael Maggio. Is this on?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Push right there.
There
Okay, now it's on.
Now it's
Thank
on.
you.
Got it.
My name is Michael Maggio, and I'm managing the project out there. We have a list over here that Kyle Fox put together for us that had to be done. We just got this at the date that you can see up there, June 9th. That's when we got this punch list from Public Works. Since we got this list on June 9th, as of today, everything with a check mark has been completed. Kyle Fox was out there today, looked at everything, and he said make sure that you have the sweeper out here the day that you pave. Brock's was all set to pave today, but unfortunately they could not get out today, and that's why we have a letter from them stating that they were not capable of getting out there today, but they will. They told us they would more than likely have it done this week. Hopefully we can get it done. Anything you see with the circle over here was supposed to be done either Monday or Tuesday. Okay, for example, it says CB 472L, remove broken concrete and repair it. Okay, that was to be done yesterday, but it was raining like crazy yesterday out there, so we couldn't get some concrete out there. And we have to have a certain poundage of like 3,000 pound concrete. You can't just mix it up in a wheelbarrow. So we have to have cement trucks out there. We have to jackhammer it out.
Let me interrupt you a little bit. I know the explanations of each individual item is something that you want to go through. To me, it's a list of more excuses for why we haven't done it so far. And really what I want to know is Brock's engaged and hired by you to complete all of these things or just some of them?
Brock's is just doing some of these, is where you can see that some of the things that are being done with paving. That's what they're involved with. The other things, well, example, like sweeping the road, we don't have that done because we're not paving it. We have to sweep the road the day we pave it. Number two, loom and seed the slopes. Okay, they've all been loomed. We haven't seeded them yet because of the rain yesterday. We couldn't see them, but they'll be seeded tomorrow morning because we finished raking everything out because there was a slew of mud out there the other day from all the rain. As far as repair the swales on the side of the road, and we see we've repaired them. They just have to be seeded, and we have to put some jute pad down. But again, it was muddy yesterday, so we couldn't rake it out entirely. I wanted to do the job right and do it once. Other than that, I have to go to the second page that we have over here. Remove the trailer and the temporary power. There was no temporary power to it, but the power that was to it was removed, and the trailer was supposed to be removed yesterday, but because of the rain and everything, without mudding everything up on the person's yard that was down there, the trailer is being removed tomorrow morning. It's all set up to be removed. And the next point is shim the point, the low points in the road. That's being done during paving. You can't do that now.
Is Brock's doing that?
Base pavement, let's
She
see.
asked if this was being done here, the shim on the low point.
Is
Right,
Brock's
north side of the
doing
road,
that?
That's paving. So
Brock's will be doing that.
Brock's will be doing that.
Yes.
Brock's will be doing, the next one after that, which is base pavement, would need to be shimmed. Okay, that's comes during paving. And then it says paved top. That's the date that Brock's was supposed to be out there today doing all of those with the circles around them. And they sent us that letter saying because of the rain and everything, they would not be able to do that. We, on the install shoulder gravel, you can't do that until after you have the final coat on. So that's something that we're just waiting for to get done once Brock's does it. As far as everything else goes, we've done it.
I have to say, as I recall, May 2015 was the driest month of May that there's ever been in New Hampshire. We've had about 2 days of rain. I just don't buy any of this lot. To my mind, with all, you had 3 weeks from the last meeting till June the 9th when Carl Fox wrote this punch list. what did you do in the 3 weeks between May the 19th and June the 9th? It sounds to me that you didn't do very much. And this was the driest month of May ever. Now suddenly we're talking about mud. I'm sorry, I don't buy it. I think this is just another dragging your feet exercise. You started work on the punch list because you got it from Carl Fox. You're in charge of this project. You don't need Carl Fox to tell you what needs to be done. You're supposed to know what's needed done. I'm just horrified that you had to wait until June the 9th to start doing something. This is just further procrastination. This job should have been well and truly tied up. After all, if we go back to August of last year at the meeting, one of the meetings, we got the assurance that this job would all be done by Thanksgiving. The only mistake we made is we didn't ask you Thanksgiving which year. You promised us faithfully Thanksgiving that it would all be done, and it's still not done. I can't understand. You haven't given me anything to give me confidence, and I'm not being disrespectful, but I have zero confidence in this job ever being done properly. Sorry, that's where I stand. We've had so many promises. That's all I can tell you.
Are there other comments or questions by members of the board? Lynn?
Do we have any comment from Kyle on this?
I haven't heard anything from him today. The last I heard was yesterday.
Okay.
Is there any opportunity for us to make an inspection of the site?
We certainly have the legal right to do that if you wanted to continue this.
With Kylie Fox. I'd like to have Kylie Fox there if we could do it.
We can invite him. We don't get to order him around, but typically if we wanted to do a site visit, it'd be a little unusual at a bonding stage, but we could do a site visit. We're authorized to do that. We have to pick a Saturday when we are all available. We want to go out there and take a look. Although if we continued it, any of us could ride out there on any day that you want to individually as well.
Yeah, I'm open. I would be available anytime to do this.
Mr. Chairman, for the record, I did contact Mr. Fox on Friday to try to schedule a time for him to come out either yesterday or today to provide the board an update on the status of the work and where the completion was at. And he told me that he didn't do that.
No, I appreciate your effort, and
to help.
And Kyle's right. He doesn't do that as a matter of course. But Friday before the Tuesday meeting on a process that's lasted for more than a year is, despite your best efforts, a bit of a last-minute call, and the guy's got a job to do. I mean,
well, I didn't have this list until Friday, and it only arrived earlier in the week, so I didn't have any documentation. I was just trying to bridge the gap for the board.
I'm sympathetic to your role, but your client can walk the site and take a look and find all of the things that Kyle found.
Excuse me, sir.
And that's what Alistair is suggesting. You can make all of these things and determine what needs to be done on your own. It's not Kyle's job to sort of come through and see what you got to do left.
Excuse me for 1 second. May I make a statement? We've been working on this project diligently. Everything.
Wrong word.
Oh, don't try that one. I've been out to that site. I've been out to that site many times and found nobody working. So please don't say you've been working diligently.
I agree with that. I think that diligently is a word that couldn't be more misused than to say it applies to this project.
Well, we can't change the past. The board does have security. It's within the board's power to recommend to whomever calls bonds to call the bond or to let the project move towards fruition. I wasn't involved in this early on. I have done what I told the board I would do. I have been riding herd since I left here last month, and I tend to see it through. I have worked with Steve to get all the parts and pieces together so that I have a full view of what's going on. This project has a long history. It did have a rough start. We had a plan approved of a very old subdivision. There were a number of things that were encountered during the construction phase that did need to be dealt with. There were a lot of site constraints. You've got steep topography, you've got lots of ledge, we've got additional $70,000 worth of under drains that were added. There were, everything that could happen did happen. Not an excuse, it shouldn't have gone on this long, but we can't change the past.
I understand all the difficulties that you've cited. However, they built Merrimack Premium Outlets in less time than it's taken to get a stinking 12-foot wide access road.
I understand. I understand.
That's why the word diligent was very, very poorly expressed.
Yes, I hear you. I hear you. And as to what's been stated about the contractors and lining them up, I can't address what's gone on in the long-term past, but I can address and tell you that a lot of my clients, and I do all land use work and real estate, are having trouble getting help because of the demand just kind of popping this year. So
I don't disagree with you, but if someone was on the phone to Brock's in January saying, the first chance you get, I need you to do this, you'd have been first in line.
understood, but
We're not first in line because we called him
Not
on
about-
June 9th when Kyle sent a memo.
I hear you.
You know, I want to give the benefit of the doubt as often as we can. I think Steve Keach has got a good name and a good reputation, and he's bought your client a little bit of time. I think Brock's Industries is a good company with a good reputation, and but they're not going to be doing all of this work. There's a whole bunch of things on the list that aren't for them to do. They're doing the paving, and you know, a lot of this other stuff.
There are three
It's
things that
different.
Brock's has to do. All the rest of them are your clients.
So we've got,
And
Four
Brock's won't even at present give you a date when they're going to do it.
we've got 5 things, I think, left. Yes, you're right, Mr. Millens. You're correct. Brock's has not given us an exact date. I suspect it'll be soon, but I can call and I'll be able to testify to that. But hopefully I won't have to do that.
There are 7 things that are your client's responsibility and 3 that are Brock's. I just counted them.
1, 2, 3, 4 on the first page belong to my client, and the field trailer, which is
5 on the
5.
first page.
So, but some of these things are incredibly frustrating as I look at them, because repairing a swale on the left side of road, reseed, obtain stable growth, that not only doesn't require anything to do with paving, that should have been
No.
done at your first opportunity to control erosion.
Right.
And keep the dirt from washing down the hill. Loam and seed slopes and right-of-way, that's not on a waiting list for rain or dry or anything like that.
Locate all the proposed and found boundary markers. That should have been done months ago.
Those have been located.
It's
and
not checked off.
We have actually, yes, you're correct. And I've actually spoken with Steve about that myself, and his field crews have been very busy, and they want to come out and do that and the as-built and everything all at once. They don't want to be making multiple trips. That's not something that my client has asked be deferred. He's actually made several calls to have them come out, but
But they're not done.
no, they're not done.
So there's 5 things on the
recognize
first
that.
page, and there's 2 more on the second page.
I'm frustrated that you had a list of 22 items a week ago.
On the
Kyle
9th,
should have
It's
come
not
out there and said
unusual.
there's 3 things to do and you sweep up, but 2 pages of, how many things are on this list?
right, that never should have happened on the 9th.
Yeah, 30, well, over 30, Mr. Chairman. That's-
30?
It's not you, but
Um,
that's what the board's dealing with, and
I
that's what we have been
understand.
dealing with.
Are there more comments or questions? Desiree?
I have a comment just to kind of go somewhere from this. I mean, okay, clearly it's work on the deadline. Like, as close to the deadline, like get stuff done, not work ahead of time, get it done in preparation so that you don't have any hang-ups. That seems to be the MO for the whole project. So, that said, last time we talked about the reason why we were going to not call the bond. We were going to wait 'cause it's better that they finish the work. So the question is, do
Yeah,
you
where do we
just let,
stand on
the-
that?
like, even a short period of time and let him, it's just another call in front of us, but it's going to be us having to like finish up the rest of the, final 10 items on the list, basically.
Yeah. Let's debate and talk about that a little bit, but I do want to comment on your introductory sentence. I don't think that it's work at the deadline. I think it's do a few things right before I got to show up before the board.
Right.
Right, that's,
So I'm not in trouble.
but not work prior, I mean, it was just
Yeah.
a little bit of action.
Oh, absolutely. He's not trying to get it done. He's trying to, get past the next board meeting by having a few things done.
I
not-
think you're, in all fairness, he did try to get this done. And I hear you about the items that are on this list, but I know he tried to schedule the paving. I do know that for a fact. It didn't work,
I
but
mean,
That's one thing, but look
that's
at all
one
the other
thing.
things.
Yeah.
And this
That's
was
this
just
week.
now.
Yeah.
but
that's
if
this week.
even if he got himself into April or May before he tried to call the pavers, and then he ended up in a bind because it's too late because they've got their work lined up for the season, that's still something he's got to take the responsibility for because he can call earlier. He can call, actually, last year when he told us he would.
He could have. Well, the reason for, if my memory serves me, the reason we said Thanksgiving was because that's when the paving plants were going to close, and we were assured that it would all be paved before Thanksgiving 2014. He didn't mention 2014, but before Thanksgiving. I just don't understand.
Not only that, but your client was here talking about, for that meeting, that he could do it faster than that, and the board, I think it was Tom Koenig, who suggested, why don't we loosen it up and make sure we've got enough time in there? How about instead of 30 days, we give you 45 days just to make sure?
You're correct.
And then we ended up all the way out at Thanksgiving, which was probably closer to 60 days.
Yep. And it still wasn't done.
Wasn't done, wasn't even started.
Right.
no excuses. And I guess it's pick your poison now. Let him do it or call the bond and have the town do it. I don't have an easy answer for the board.
No.
I wish I did.
I tell you, though, if Kyle Fox is in charge of it for the town, I know it'll get done. That's the one thing I can know for sure.
He is very diligent.
My concern is also the fact if we keep slipping this project, we're sending a signal to any and every contractor that we're not hold people's feet to the fire. And I think, with great respect to Mr. Maggio, and I know he's upset because I blew up over the word diligent, which I don't know where he got it from. We have got to set the point that if we keep on letting this slip and slide, because if we're saying it's going to give him another month, which is presumably what he's asking for, we're sending signals to anybody that it doesn't matter what time scale Merrimack Planning Board puts on things, we'll just get it done when it suits us. And I'm afraid that's where I feel this whole project is. It's being programmed when it suits Mr. Maggio to do it.
I have a quick question for the board, and I don't know the answer to this. What was the timing requested when this work was first approved? I don't know what the dates and times
It
were.
was
A year ago?
It was administratively approved in, I think, 2013 originally by the staff, and it was a promise that it
Okay.
would be done within a couple of weeks, and back in 2013. And it lingered into becoming involved in actually a second project, which is the two-lot subdivision that's item, 4 on our agenda. And it's been years. It's been years.
So it's been a couple of years. Okay.
You don't have the history,
No, I don't have all that detailed history.
but
You're
that's
right.
how long it is.
A couple weeks. That would never happen. I
Let
mean,
me throw
this
the
is a
ball-
tough site. I think we'd all agree to that.
Can
Not
I
that
throw the
that's an
ball back to
excuse.
you? What does you and your client, or you on behalf of your client, want this board to do?
Well, the board I understand where the board's frustration is. It gets old after a while, and I'm sure it's been very old for the people living out there.
The gentleman over there is not.
I'm sure. My husband's a builder, and he's retired now.
Simple question.
Yeah.
What does your client want? of the board tonight?
I think that the only thing that I can ask the board for is to give him until the July meeting. And that's the only option I have before me, unless the board wants to call the bond. And I'm not sure that's going to get it done any faster. I think it will get done more quickly when it's in his hands. I will call Brox myself.
I'm not
I know.
convinced of that.
Our
Seriously
experience
about
says
I
otherwise.
hear you. I hear you.
Other comments or questions?
Just
Nelson?
repeat what I just said in case it got buried there, but I think our experience shows otherwise, that it won't get done by the next month if we give them another month. At this point, there's been so many extensions and so many rollovers. I think we should go with take the bond and do the work on behalf of with the money that's in the bond, in accordance with that's the reason the bond was set. For instances like this, and I don't think we have another alternative.
Other comments or questions?
Are we going to hear from the abutters tonight?
I don't know that we generally do a public hearing with respect to calling a bond, but I don't mind hearing from them since they're here.
Yeah, if they're here, I'd like to hear from them.
Okay, let's do that in a little
Or
bit.
give them the
I'll
opportunity.
give them the opportunity, yeah.
Are there other comments or questions by members
I
of
think
the board?
Tom wants to.
Tom?
Understand that if he may be able to get the paving done quicker than the town could,
Right.
depending on how that cycles. Because typically, when we do paving, we have mostly tried to fold it into all the projects that we plan to do.
Right.
Because the economies of scale and the supply of the asphalt and the equipment and stuff. And I don't know what their schedule is for doing the work, what they've got scheduled after July 1. Okay? So, so I don't know how long that would push off the paving piece of that. The other stuff on here, this could have been taken care of in the 3-week interim. Okay? There was no rain, there was no mud. I was choking in my yard with the lawnmower because of the dust I was kicking up in some parts of my yard. And, it's just, those items clearly could have been done quicker. I'm only just cautioning the rest of the board that the paving issue might be pushed off into August or September. But again, I just don't know what the Public Works Department is scheduling for their time.
With respect to the timing of the paving, I'm mindful that it's an emergency access road, and it's not one that's going to be driven on, hopefully, much at all. And so if the grass and the loaming and the seeding and the slope stabilizations and sweeping and all of those things are taken care of, I don't think that the delay in paving affects these abutters at all.
It's just.
But we'll hear from them, we'll ask them and see what they think.
It's just that I want to explain up front that there would be there's likely to be another delay
Yep, valid.
in the paving piece of it.
Yeah.
Okay, like you said, the other stuff, can pretty much be
Do you happen to know if the town uses Brox or somebody else?
low bidder.
Okay.
Those projects are put out to bid, and they may have already done that.
Right.
I don't think with respect to this one they did or would have, but.
No, they wouldn't have, but it would, they may have. I know that all the roads across from me, Hassel, Hutchinson, Danforth, and all those are supposed to be top coated this year, because they did the base coat last year, and they wanted it to sit over the winter. Okay, now the plan is that I've been told that they're going to put the top coat on in this year's paving program. So, whether that has gone out to bid or not, and I presume that it has, because usually they put that stuff out relatively early so they can get in line and schedule it so that they can work it into the contractor's schedule as well as ours. So, but like I said, I'm not trying to
Right.
second guess the Public Works Department or anything like that. It's just that if the expectation is that there's going to be work done by the abutters, and all of a sudden, there's a delay, what's going on? And that's the reason why.
Right.
Okay? It's not that we're dragging our feet, it's just that we got to get back in line and try to take care of the economies of scale issues
Right.
and deal with it in that fashion. But in the meantime, the other work clearly could get done.
I think there's also something to said for what the quality of the work that we would expect if we were having Kyle oversee it. I have complete confidence in that.
Mr. Chairman, I've just read the letter from Brock's Industries, which is quite interesting. It says, due to past rain events. I don't understand that. We haven't had any damn rain until recently. It says, due to past rain events, which completely...
The past 2 days.
No. Then it goes on to talk about the rain on Monday and Tuesday this week.
Just if I could offer some insight on that, there were a few downpours, intermittent. When you have a downpour on a job site that's waiting to be paved, it oftentimes disturbs the underlying gravels, and they have to be, rehabilitated and dried out before you can resume. I mean, it does take a little time. I'm not saying that's the whole answer.
Well, it does, but if that occurs to Brock's on another site, then coming to this site's a perfect solution for them since this one's already got its base coat down.
That's exactly where I
So
was
that would
going.
Yeah,
clear
on
their
this
schedule
one,
up
yes, you're
if that
correct.
happened to them.
You're
But,
correct.
I think the bigger concern for me is, hearing from your client that the rain today, and they were going to come out today, but they couldn't come out today because of the rain, and then I'm looking at a letter that was written yesterday, not today.
Actually, it's written.
I think it's,
15th,
I'm not
yes.
even sure I'm very comfortable with the letter.
Well, I would be happy if it would help the board at all to make a call myself to Brock's and speak with them and put them right on the spot and get back to Tim and get something clearer. I'm happy to do that if that would help. I'm trying to think about the shortest route to the end, and I guess I would tend to agree with Mr. Mahan that following through and letting him pave is probably going to get it done quicker, especially when I'm riding herd. I wasn't involved before. I would have been all over this before. So.
Yeah, I understand.
I guess I go along with the quality issue. I mean, we know we're going to get the job done right if DPW does it.
He's out there on the job site inspecting when they're doing the paving. They won't pave until he comes out.
If Kyle is supervising, it'll get done right.
Exactly.
He is supervising.
It did,
And
which
he
is
will with
actually,
Brock's.
Yeah.
So-
Right.
which is actually what we heard last time, that they paved when it was too cold and had to tear it out because Kyle said tear it out. So,
Another thing that went wrong. They shouldn't have probably. So,
but they ought to have had a thermometer.
I understand.
If they have already been in contact with Brock's and are sort of in line with Brock's, then I agree with Tom that having Brock's do this will get it done faster than relying on DPW for that thing. I'm not anywhere close to being willing to give him 30 days.
Okay.
I would think if we gave him 2 weeks until the next meeting,
I-
and there'll be
Okay.
no discussion if it's not done, don't even bother coming.
Do you mean in 2 weeks?
We meet July 7th is our
Okay.
next meeting.
That would be,
Yeah, but you know what's the excuse that I can hear coming is July the 4th, they'll be shut down for 2 days.
I don't care about
All right,
excuses.
I'm
not talking excuses.
We don't-
I'm saying it'll be done or it won't be done, and if there's I don't care if you've got 30 things in, 29 are done, and he's been very diligent. If there's one that isn't done, and it's the paving because Brock's didn't get out there, I don't care.
I hear you.
Tom?
Do you really need to set the deadline as a meeting date or something sooner?
I have seen other boards, not planning boards, schedule something that needed to get done by a date, and if it didn't get done by the first of a month or something, then the approval lapsed. But I don't know what our authority is as a planning board to do that, to sort of conditionally call a bond, I guess. I
You
suppose
can
there's no
set a
choice.
meeting date anytime you wanted, if you wanted to do that. I personally don't care for this method, but you could say by next week. You could say by, today is the
23rd.
16th, by the 23rd. And, I mean, you could. I'm just saying. And we could set another meeting for that if you wanted to. But
Desiree, did
I
you
don't
come
want
up?
to.
I think it's a nice way to say it. Calling the bond due ends the Maggio, sorry, the Maggio out on the side. It closes out all that, right? Like, if that's done, then there's no more 2 lots.
Well, that's a separate vote that we would take up as our
Okay.
next agenda item.
Okay. And then, but then that would be the end. Like, he wouldn't need to be on site anymore, and
I don't think he'd be willing to be on the site if his bond is going to be called to finish the work. Why would he come on the site to
Right.
do any of it? But I don't think that he could,
If we
wanted
give,
to do some work.
if we give them 2 weeks, that's the 30th. That gives him plenty of time to accomplish all this, and with your help, to strong-arm Brock's to get out there and have it
Yes,
totally complete.
yes.
And we can schedule, we've got time to notice and schedule a meeting. It would take us 5 minutes to call a bond if we need to.
Before we do that, I want to hear from the abutters. If there's abutters or citizens that wish to weigh in,
Yep.
come on forward. Yes. And although I know you, Mr. Hammond, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Good evening, I'm Dave Hammond, 18 Valley View Drive. So specific to the access road, one thing I did want to do is confirm kind of the speculation that the board had, is that since we live right there across the street, the standard operating procedure is the house across the street he's still building, and 100% of the work is done on that house. And then a couple days before this meeting is when work on the road gets started.
We know that.
So just wanted to confirm that with you. In regards to what impact it would have on, I guess, my family if the board called the bond and the delay of the road, there was a delay in completion of the road, it would have zero impact as far as my wife and I consider, due to the fact that it's been over a year already. The delay's been over a year already, and waiting a few more months has no impact to us. The top coat's down.
The base coat's down.
The base coat's what I meant, yeah. Thank you. And my daughter can scooter on it. So there's really no impact having that top coat not on. And the delay would have no impact on our family being in a butter. So,
Are you in favor of seeing the bond called or opposed to it?
so specifically, I am in favor of calling the bond, because then, to some of the points that have been made, is that we know it'll get done, and it'll get done right if the Department of Public Works takes care of it. And I won't have to be here in a few weeks, again, hearing the same excuses that we've heard for the past 2 years. Not that I don't love coming to these meetings, but
And we love having you here, sir.
There's some vacancies
We do
on
have
the
a
board.
vacancy.
Yeah, that's-
Now that you know how it works,
You'd have to recuse yourself for this project, but you could vote on the other ones.
So my recommendation, and my wife and I have discussed this, is that our recommendation is pull the bond and get the job done right, because I feel that we'll be here in a few weeks and hearing the excuse that, well, the Topco company, we don't even have a date yet. And we'll be here in 2 weeks saying, oh, I finally have a date, and give me another 2 weeks or another month because they're going to fit me in
Wouldn't
then.
happen.
So that's what I feel, that's our recommendation, but I
Thank
leave
you,
it up to
Mr.
you.
Hammond. Does anyone have questions for Mr. Hammond? No.
Okay.
Thank you for testifying. Are
Thank
there
you.
any other abutters or citizens who wish to weigh in?
It's the other end.
the other side.
Mr. Hammond, did you sign in on the clipboard?
Yes, he did. He did.
Good evening, Ms. Amick. I don't think your microphone's on.
You're not on.
Microphone. Yeah.
Shauna Amick,
there it
11
is.
Valley View. Thank you. Well, I'm thrilled to say I appreciate this conversation. I've got to tell you, I've been so discouraged by this project. And forgive me, I'm not remembering who it was who said it this evening, but you were saying if you don't pull the bond, you're sending a message to contractors. And I want you to know that it's a message to residents, too. And my husband and I mean, I have been disappointed. I will say I have been heartbroken, really, that we've moved here, because I have felt like the planning board is sending a very clear message to the residents of Valley View that we are of no value, that there's a businessman who's an out-of-state businessman who has more value in Merrimack than the actual residents do. Just so discouraged that we chose to move to this town. And so, sitting here tonight and at least hearing this conversation, that you're frustrated, and somebody said, it might have been Mr. Maggio's colleague here, that can't imagine how frustrated the residents are. It was at least good to hear that, you know, for what it's worth. I don't know if that it's going to get anything done or not, but I'm trying to say thank you, that in this short time of sitting here this evening, I've gone from totally disheartened to having a tiny speck of hope. So I appreciate you at least making mention of how truly ridiculous the excuses are. I don't know exactly which direction to go in, because depending on what your decision is as far as the bond being pulled or not, of course that's going to make a differentiation in what I'm asking for, what my husband and I are asking for.
Well, explain that a little bit more, because
Sure.
the decision on the bond is to pull it or not. So our decision, what's your recommendation on that decision?
Well, that's hard. It is very hard to make that kind of decision. I think you're right, though, that, I mean, I would make the next meeting tomorrow, because the only time work gets done is the day of the meeting. I mean, I'm, you know, tongue-in-cheek on that, but you can make it for 2 weeks, and then it's been said already, we're going to be here in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We're going to be here in 2 weeks. We'll be here on July 7th. We'll be here next September. We'll be here next Thanksgiving.
No, we
We're going to
won't.
be having
No,
the
we
same
won't.
conversation.
No, we won't.
So on the one hand, I feel like, you know, you're just putting off the inevitable. The display this evening of how this businessman stomped off because something was said that he didn't appreciate is just a clear indication of the character we're dealing with. It's not going to change overnight. On the other hand, you know, is it going to take a little bit more time? We don't know. We don't have a crystal ball. We don't know who's going to get the job done first. I agree with my neighbors that it doesn't matter to us if it gets paved next week or it gets paved even in August or September, because if anything, not having Mr. Maggio's crew working on that house that you're still deciding if he can have or not will keep those carpenters from driving on the new grass that's been planted. So this was my my hope for this evening, is that if this is continuing, if he's still going to be permitted to build this house, I don't know what you all said before. This was like months and months ago, where I had asked, could people stop using the access road as a town road? And whatever you said worked for a while. And his crew stopped using the road. They use it again. So now what happens is they remove the orange cones. If they're in the right state of mind, they remove the orange cones and just leave them off to the side so the road is open. If not, you can see tire tracks on the new grass that's been planted. So
Let me clarify one of the issues that you mentioned. The house that's under construction isn't affected by what we're considering tonight. He wants to subdivide the lot that house is on to allow even yet another house.
Okay.
And that's what would be on our agenda for item 4.
Okay. All right, I
and
misunderstood that.
That would be separate from this decision about a bond.
Okay, so then that's what I'm asking then, is what can be done so that they'll stop driving, you know, using that road as a town road? Because again, it's safety. I mean, I went through the whole thing. I know I passed in a
Sure.
2-page testimony on why it's so dangerous to use that street as a town road, and that hasn't changed. So aside from locking my kids in the house, you know, I'm looking for help. I'm desperate. You know, how can we get the road to be an access road instead of being used as a town road, as Mr. Maggio's crew uses it? So that's my big thing. It's all the safety. It's not even a matter of aesthetics or just that I'm, disgruntled. It's really a safety issue. The dirt on the road certainly is a safety issue also. If I allowed my kids to ride their bike in the street, they wouldn't be able to because there's so much dirt that hasn't been swept up. But because we cannot ride their bikes, they can't ride their bikes because we don't know when a truck's going to come by. It's not an issue, if that makes any sense. So,
I got you. I understand.
So I feel like we just feel so powerless that there's nothing we can do. We just have to let people keep using the street as a town street.
Hang on one second. Jeff, did you have a question for Ms. Amick?
Yeah, I think what I was trying to get to here is besides keeping the street from being used as general access, are there any activities that you would like to see done early, especially given if the town picks this up, it could take longer to get done, especially out to the paving. But is there any other activity that
Grass
you'd like
planting
to see done?
or
Anything.
slopes, swales,
slope.
any of the things on that list? I don't know if you even have
Yeah,
the list.
we haven't been given access to that list. I mean, I would love to see the streets swept because when you're living on a hill, that's a danger.
Sure.
It's an issue. It's not just, it doesn't look nice, it's actually,
Slippery.
can't
Yeah,
walk
slippery.
in the street. Yeah, go get the mail and who knows what's what's going to happen.
gotcha.
Aside from that, yeah, I'm all about blocking off the end of the street.
Whatever happens tonight, you got my copy of the list.
Okay, thank you, sir.
We'll see. Anything else that you'd like to add to
I
that?
don't think so. Thank
Okay.
you.
Any questions for Ms. Amick? Nobody? Okay. Thank you very much for your
Thank you.
testimony. Are there any other abutters or citizens who wish to weigh in? Seeing none, let's continue with the board's discussion on what to do. Lynn?
Hearing the discussion about the use of the road, in that it was, because I remember that discussion, and it was not to be allowed, and the fact that it stopped for a while and then started back up again, again shows a disregard for
It's his own promises.
everything that's going on. I think if we pull the bond and we have to wait for paving, then the town has the total control, and the town can block that road off, and it will stop that access. And so, hearing this testimony, I'm all for pulling the bond.
I think that with the road access, I remember last fall when we talked about this, and then the next day we get an email picture with the barrels blocking the road, and it did work for a while. But even when we met a month or two ago, I sat here and I made the comment to this board that said those barrels have been moved and cars are going up and down it because you can see the tire tracks, and your client was here.
Well, I have a question about that, Mr. Chairman, and maybe you can help me with this. What is supposed to block that road long-term? That actually occurred to me when I went out there. Because you go down the road and there's a turnaround, but then you've got this road that continues. I know it's not quite as wide. Is it supposed to be gated?
It's not going to be gated. It's an emergency access way, but it doesn't have to be blocked because the only one that's using it is your client.
But people go driving down that road and they see
But
pavement.
people don't. The only ones that do
I
are
don't
the
know.
contractors.
Okay, so when they're gone.
There's no need to drive down that road.
It doesn't go anywhere other than for these contractors to use it.
But it connects to the other end,
Yep, but
correct?
the only people that would use it are the people that are at the top of that. It isn't used as a throughway.
So is it the traffic itself from the contractors that is a problem, or see, I don't understand why this isn't gated if it's an emergency road. Usually it's emergency for emergency vehicles.
They've been told not to use it.
And promised to control their contractors.
That's right.
Your client said, I'll get control of my contractors. And he sent us a picture the next day with it blocked off, and I guess for a while it worked. But
Do you
Not
want it
working anymore.
blocked off permanently? Do you want something?
We'll take care of it.
no, it's not the intent. It's not the intent to gate the road. It never was the intent to gate the road. Our fire department and police department don't want a gated emergency access road because it slows you down when you're trying to get through it in an emergency, and plenty of other reasons.
Yeah,
But it is an emergency access lane that your client has committed to not use and then ignored that commitment.
So who uses it?
Just
the people that live up there?
Normally, it's not
I
used
don't-
by anybody other than a police or fire engine.
Does it have a sign
Yes.
that says that?
I'm sorry. I know that you're not on a microphone, so they're saying that the sign went up today, but it went down otherwise. But anyway,
Well,
Total disregard.
I don't know anything about that. I have never seen, and I do a lot of this, an emergency road that doesn't have a gate. Quite honestly, that's pretty unusual. It's usually something,
let's not chase that one.
but that's neither here nor there.
As
I would like the board to consider giving him 2 weeks, and if he does not get it done by the date spelled out, the
I think
town
he's-
takes over.
I'm in favor of calling the bond because I think that we've given enough drop-dead deadlines, and they don't mean anything. But I would ask if that's the will of the board to go down and consider that we make some very specific findings to support the reasoning behind calling the bond.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we call the performance bond for the Valley View Revocable Trust on the basis that there has been a continuous a failure to meet promised deadlines, promises which have been made since August 2014, and time, he has had more than enough time. There have been too many broken promises, and the board has lost confidence in the job being done to our satisfaction in a timely fashion.
Second by Ms. Fault. Any other comments or questions?
I was just going to agree with all the things that Lynn had said earlier, so there's no need to repeat it. I'm in agreement with this motion.
Other comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? 7-0-0. That brings us to item number 4 on our agenda, which is Keach Nordstrom Associates, Inc. as the applicant and Valley View Revocable Trust, Carol Maggio as the trustee, for discussion and possible action regarding a request for a reinstatement of conditional final approval and a 6-month extension for compliance with conditions of an approval granted by the Planning Board on July 23, 2013 and July 8, 2014 to subdivide one lot into 2 single-family lots, residential lots located at 15 Valley View Drive in the R Residential District, Tax Map 5C, Lot 142. The item is continued from the April 21st, 2015 and May 19th, 2015 Planning Board meetings. Donna, is there anything that we need to know before we take up this item?
No, staff said that depending on the action that we just had of calling the bond, staff would now recommend that the board deny the associated request to reinstate and extend the approval for the 2-lot subdivision.
Thank you. Would you like to weigh in?
I would.
Please do.
Okay. Now, I looked at this a little bit closely. And the board, we've got this road and the work that had to be done. It's fully secured. There's no concern at all, other than your confidence vote, that there isn't enough money put aside to see that the work out there is done to meet the town's standards. So the purpose of that money, whether it's a letter of credit, a bond, or whatever security is posted, is so that the town is not put into a position like it is now, where it has to call a bond and has to reach into taxpayer dollars to finish a road that on a plan that they have to approve. There's more than enough money here. That's not a risk. So the town will likely go and finish this work out there. There is no basis really to deny the 2-lot subdivision. And let me explain to you why. There's no threat at all as far as, in other words, this board has conditioned that approval on him completing the work, and that was a timing issue, to finish the road. The road's going to be finished one way or another. The money's there. The town is not in a precarious position. there'll be plenty of money to pay for those costs, and it's basically a frontage subdivision. So to tie the two together, it's almost double security, because not only have you got excessive money put aside in cash to secure the work being done, you don't need to hold up the other one, the two-lot subdivision, because you already are in a secure position. And there's no improvements required to approve this additional lot. Because whether Mr. Maggio does the work and eventually the extra lot is approved, or whether the town does it one way or another, you've got a completed road. That really is, it's always been that way. So to hold up the additional lot and hold the money is like double bonding, and that is inconsistent with the reading of the statute, and it's unauthorized.
I'd be willing to consider the two-lot subdivision after the road is complete, so that we know it's there and accessible. Until that road is complete, we don't have frontage.
But you do have frontage because you have the security. And that's where you've got double security. You're holding up a subdivision approval on a two-lot subdivision and holding a bond for the same improvements. And if you read 674-36 Roman 3, that's not authorized under the statute. It never was.
The road is part of a different proposal in a different subdivision.
It is, and it has nothing to do with the two-lot subdivision.
No, the two-lot subdivision had conditions of approval placed in July 2013 that were extended in 2014, and as we sit here today, they're still not met.
It should never have been a condition of that approval. I understand why this board did that. They wanted to see the work done. But it's not authorized under the statute to hold up another approval and hold that hostage because something is deficient on a separate application. Actually, it wasn't a separate application. Those 4 lots existed. It's really the road building. So you've got double security. I don't know if I'm explaining that clear enough, but you're holding up, holding this lot.
I hear what
hostage.
you're explaining, but we disagree.
Well, read the statute.
The road is not related to this two-lot subdivision.
No,
the
it's
road is part of a 4-lot subdivision.
That's right.
Which just had its bond called. This two-lot subdivision had conditions of approval which have not been met as we sit here today.
Nothing to do
Not
with
the
the road.
road.
But it was an unauthorized condition to impose that on a two-lot subdivision, that the road be completed when the town had full security for that. You have to read 674:36 Roman 3.
I have a time or two. I just respectfully disagree with your position.
Well, that's exactly what the case law says, and I double-checked it to make sure it didn't change.
Yep.
But it says right here, in lieu of completion.
It's not the question of the law, it's the question of the facts. The road is not a part of this two-lot subdivision. It's not a condition of approval for this two-lot subdivision. It's not linked to this two-lot subdivision.
Well, why
It's part
was-
of the 4-lot subdivision.
Why was the completion of the improvements on the 4-lot subdivision made a condition of?
Wasn't.
I was told that it was.
When your client came in here and promised that he'd connect the two and said he'd get this one done in order to get the two-lot approval.
So you called his bond, and that's the consequences for not having that road completed. But this other two-lot subdivision is completely independent. It shouldn't be bootstrapped together.
I hear your argument, I just don't agree with it.
Well, that's what the law says, Mr. Chairman, 674:36, in lieu of. And quite frankly, I believe he's got the zoning relief that was required. This is basically putting a lot line on a plan that formerly had 4 lots on that side of the street in the old plan from 1973. There were 4 lots on that side of the road. And I don't know, they got merged somewhere, but he came in and he got the zoning relief, worked with staff, and came in with the plan for 2 lots. It was approved once before.
What's the will of the board?
Were there conditions on that approval?
On the two-lot approval? Yes.
Do we know what the conditions were?
Yeah, we have two different decision letters. One is dated July 9th, and that's the one, and it's for the two-lot subdivision, and that it does have a compliance hearing before September 30th to verify the applicant controls the contractor's use of the emergency access lane, the construction of the access lane, and the addition of the water line, and to make sure the existing road is restored to its original condition, or better, per the administrative approval dated August 24th. There was also a note to be added to the recording sheet that no construction vehicles associated with the applicant can use the emergency access road unless doing work within the emergency access road, and all conditions of the approval dated July 25th. And I have those, and it looks like the condition number 2 is the applicant is responsible for recording the plan, including the LCHIP fee and any related documents at the Hillsborough County Registry of Deeds, and that was never done.
Well, and I spoke with Keach's office about that, and they never delivered the Mylar either, as from what I understand.
Right.
Yeah. So there's a piece of that in there, too.
Can we get a legal opinion on this? Postpone the whole decision for 2 weeks and get a legal opinion?
I think that we could, as a board, decide if that's what we wanted to do. I'm not in favor of it. Nelson?
I wasn't involved in the original subdivision, so I'm not really clear on this. I guess I'm willing to accept your interpretation, Mr. Chairman, of the legal aspects that are being discussed here. So,
I mean, I think if Mr. Maggio came in tomorrow with a new application for a subdivision, that's different than extending something that was approved virtually 2 years ago and still doesn't have its conditions of approval met after extending deadlines as often as we have,
yeah,
years at a time.
What she's saying
Regardless
is
of the road. There are other conditions that haven't been fulfilled.
But this is 2 years later.
And surely, Mr. Chairman, am I not right in saying that when something has the conditions of approval, there is a time scale put to it, and if it's not been met, and we've, given him certain increases, we have a right to say you didn't meet the original 2 years, you still haven't met with whatever extra we've given him, which I think is close on another year. We have a right in saying this application fails. If you want to come back with a new application to do the same thing, that's your privilege, and nobody's saying you can't. But beyond that, I feel we let it go. It's not going to be renewed, but we're certainly welcome to listen to Mr. Maggio and your good self, if you'd like to represent him, coming back and saying, could we do a two-lot subdivision on this site?
I don't know what the original conditions read, and I think I'm hearing there's a couple of different ones. I don't know what the timing was put on those, and I think that, quite frankly, those things are all very important. There's a lot at stake here for him. And I know he's made some mistakes, there's no question about it, but quite honestly, I'd like to, again, I'm going to renew it. Give us 2 weeks. Tim's not here tonight either, and I think Tim was involved in the whole 2 years. I don't know if, Donna, if you were here for the whole time
I
this
was
has
here
been
for
going?
the original reinstatement extension.
Okay. What were the conditions?
I have them right in front of me. So for the July 25th, 2013,
That was the most recent?
that was for the review and acceptance of consideration of a final approval for the application to proposing to subdivide the one lot into two. So that was the original.
Okay. And I asked Steve, I don't have these.
So the planning board at its meeting on July 23rd, 2013 voted 5-0-0 to accept the jurisdiction of the application, then 5-0-0 to grant the waiver of sidewalks, and lastly 3-2 to grant the final conditional approval of the project, subject to the following conditions to be filled within 6 months and prior to the signing of the plan. That was the final plans and Mylars to be signed by all property owners. Licensed land surveyors shall also sign and seal final plans and Mylars. The applicant is responsible for recording the plan, and that's the one I just read earlier. Any waivers granted shall be listed and described on the recordable sheets of the final plan set. Copy of state subdivision approval to be submitted to the Community Development Department. General note number 18, sheet 1 of 2, to be revised with the approval number and expiration date satisfactorily address any forthcoming comments from the fire, public works, and building departments, and address any staff planning technical comments, which we have 7 of, and it looks like they were all crossed off as done. So it looked like the remaining one was the recording of the plan, and we never got Mylars.
Okay. All right, so that was July 23rd, and that wasn't met.
That wasn't met, so then they came back, and we have a decision letter dated July 9th, 2014, and that one was the compliance hearing, a note about the construction vehicles, and then all the other conditions I just listed.
For the 2-lot subdivision.
Right.
Yeah, and see, that kind of mixed the road in with the... I think we got to... What was the deadline on whatever it...
That one was to reinstate and extend conditional approval to September 30th, 2014.
And that wasn't met either?
Correct.
Okay. And that was the most recent one?
Right.
And see, I didn't even know this was on the agenda until... we didn't ask for this to be put on the agenda tonight.
You didn't ask to, but it was when the last meeting, we said it would be on the agenda. We pushed them both items on together, so
Okay.
I'm sorry about it, but that's what was said.
And I think that the approval that we're considering reinstating expired in September
Right.
of last year, so it's 9 months expired
Okay.
after being extended for a year. So
And it's on the agenda as a new item or...
it's a request from your client to reinstate the prior approval and then give them 6 more months off in the future.
Well, 6 months to do what on the 2-lot subdivision?
You have to ask him.
It's your client's request, but every
I know
piece
about
of this process
It's a mess.
hinges on your client's promises and credibility.
Mhm.
And after all that we've been through, he doesn't have any credibility.
I understand. Well, like I said...
Promises to do it tomorrow or in 2 weeks or in a month or whatever.
You did the best you could for him.
Well, I still would like to have a shot at it. I've only had a chance to be helping with this for a short period of time.
You do have a shot to bring it forward as a new application.
That's the
The
point.
2-lot?
Yep.
Yes.
You can always do that.
Well,
Let's do that.
Then there's nothing
This
at
one isn't
stake.
gonna fly.
You can come back with, say, please, can
well,
I?
there is nothing at stake. He could come back with it now, and he doesn't have to worry about building the road, right?
No.
That's right.
No,
I mean, that's unfortunate. It's going to take longer, but he does have a contract, too, with Brock's. So I don't know if he's paid him yet. But
Well, it's interesting because Brock's didn't actually write to him. They wrote to Mr. Twardowski, which confuses me even more.
that's because he's the site contractor, and I'm not going to say.
Well,
No, don't go there.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we advise the applicant that we will not extend his request for reinstatement of conditional final approval and extension of compliance, but we will place on record that if he wishes to come back and talk to this board again in the future about this project, we will at least entertain his application.
As a new application?
As a new application.
As a new application.
As a brand new application. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second for that motion? Second by Ms. Christensen. Any further discussion? Donna, before we vote, is this an item which requires public opinion?
Usually, yes.
Are there any members of the public who wish to weigh in? Please come forward, Mr. Hammond.
Well, he
So,
enjoys it so much.
Dave Hammond, 18 Valley View Drive. So many of you were here last month when I expressed my, frustration with how things have progressed on this second request to split the lot. My wife and I were talking about this, and we have 2 small children, as many of you know. Parenting small children is a learning experience every day. And one thing we learned early in the process is you don't reward bad behavior. And we feel that even as denying this application or reviewing a new application, approving splitting that lot would, I guess, reward his behavior to date. And as Mrs. Amick mentioned, it shows the residents of Valley View that really our best interests may not be at the forefront of the planning board's minds. So our recommendation is along with the board that this application be denied. And you'll see us again if a new application does come up, and our recommendation again for that will be to deny that request as well. Our hope is that Mr. Maggio completes the house across the street, sells it as is with the large lot, and goes on his merry way, and we don't have to deal with him anymore. Because it's been a very frustrating, painful year for us as we've lived here, and even longer for the Amick family, and we would hate to have to go through it even longer. Thank you.
Understood. Any questions for Mr. Hammond?
No.
Well
Thank
said.
you.
Any other abutters or citizens wish to weigh in? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. There's a properly seconded motion on the floor to deny the extension, but make it known to the applicant that he's free to submit a new application if he chooses to do so. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? 7-0-0 for that action. Brings us to item number 5 on our agenda, which is Mario Fortin and Nitroff Investments, LLC, review for acceptance and consideration of final approval of a waiver of full site plan review to construct an 18 by 60 foot storage shed addition to the existing 5,432 square foot building. The parcel is located at 82 DW Highway in the I-1 Industrial and Aquifer Conservation District's Tax Map 2D, Lot 40. Donna, is there anything that we need to know before we hear from the applicant?
No, this is a straightforward site plan, so I'll just let the applicant explain.
Please don't pass judgment on us for the way we've had to deal with our last applicant. We're really not such bad people. Tell us about your project and introduce yourself.
Oh, it's an existing slab. I bought the building last year. and
Could you
Introduction first. I'm sorry.
introduction, David?
Hi, my name is Mario Fortin. I own Naturals Investment, and I own the building at 82 DW Highway. And it's an existing slab on the side. It's already 20 feet by 16 feet. And I would like to enclose that. It's already a roof there falling down. So I want to use a drawing that I find in the town for the survey, and so I can use it as a warehouse.
What kind of things do you keep in your warehouse?
I own a drywall company, so I use a Baker, Stegen, leftover material from the job site that we'll put in the warehouse and we'll bring it back when we have a new job site. Right now, it's right on the slab, and when you drove by DW Highway, you see all that stuff there. So I just want to build that there and redo 100% the building outside this year, so the building will look good.
So you said the slab that's there right now is 20 feet by 60 feet?
Roughly, yes.
And you're going to do 18 by 60 feet on top of it? Okay. Is the addition that you're going to put, it's almost more of an addition than a shed because it's going to touch the building.
Yes, yeah.
It's an addition to the building that you have. Is it going to be sided to look like the same building?
I want to redo the whole building. I want to do EIFS. I don't know if you know about EIFS.
No.
It's like a styrofoam stucco.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I want to do, the whole building 100%. I'm waiting to redo my building, so if you guys agree I put an addition there, I'm going to redo the whole building this year.
Okay. I know that what you did was kind of mark up the existing plan to show what your changes are, but it's a little bit confusing to figure out exactly what's new and what's old in here. I see things labeled like a existing oil and grit trap. Is that built on the site?
It's existing, yes.
Are you going to leave that there?
Yes.
What is it there for?
No idea. Right now, it's just like a warehouse.
But you don't use the existing oil and grease trap?
I use it as storage.
But the trap is something that's catching liquids that are running through a floor drain or something
There's
like that.
no trap there now.
There's no floor drain or anything in the concrete?
I think it's an old drawing, and it was a plumbing company after that when they buy the building.
Okay.
There's no trap there, nothing.
So the grease trap may not be there?
I can promise you it's not there now.
Okay. Is your septic system there underneath that part of the building?
No, I think I got the sewer from the town.
Okay, this town sewer is hooked up the way it's shown on here.
Yep, I got it. Yep.
See, there's two things shown on, that's what problem with an old plan.
You got a septic
Things-
system shown in the front yard with a tank underneath that slab and then a sewer line connection.
Yeah.
But I
I
guess
see
I'll,
it.
I'll trust you if you tell me you're paying for sewer, because everybody would
Well,
recognize.
I pay for sewer, I can promise you.
Other comments or questions by other members of the board?
Could I just ask how high the building is going to be relative to the side of the house that's already there?
Smaller than the house.
Thank you.
It'll be lower than the side of the
Yes, yeah.
Thank you.
house? Like, I'm sorry, Desiree, go ahead.
I was going to ask the length of the building with the addition, or what's this total length, just the frontage length from house to to your corner with your 16 feet that you're adding onto? What's the existing length of your house? The house or the building?
The one is existing right now?
Yeah.
That's the first, roughly, I don't know, but it's the first square right there, pointed right there. Right there's this is all office. The first one is all office. Can I show you?
Yes. But don't.
Yeah, take it back down, and then you got to sit by a microphone while you're explaining to us and point.
All right, the first building right here, the first square, it's all office.
And that's 20 by 50.
Yeah.
20 by 50.
Okay, and then the dimension
Yeah.
from like here to here, how long is that roughly? I guess it's probably like 60 to 80.
Yeah, it's almost like 80, 100.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Okay, I think I got you.
You have 50, and then you have an additional 10 where that jut out is.
Yeah, that's 50.
So
I
the
can see-
addition is 60.
Yeah.
Right,
The
but-
existing building, I can see right here, the existing building is 50 feet right now. Yeah, roughly by 60 feet.
Yep.
And I want to put any, what I just say was
Actually, 51 feet.
Yep, I think you're right. Other comments or questions?
I have a different.
Hey, can I just say something one more time?
Yes, please.
The wash bay is not there. It's not exists. It's not there.
The what's not there?
The wash bay. They should
The wash bay that's
the
indicated.
8-foot concrete block. It's not existing.
Okay.
It does not exist.
No, it's not there.
And that's where that oil and grit train
It never been.
Was there.
When I purchased the building, was not there.
Okay, I understand. Well, the first order of business for the board is to decide whether the application is complete and okay for review. What's the will of the board?
I certainly find these drawings are very, very complicated. I mean, I'd like to see them redone.
I certainly find them complicated as well, although redone can mean a million different things. And typically with small projects, we are as flexible as we can be with an applicant coming forward so that he's not paying, engineering and architect fees to redraw something that we might be able to explain. So what we normally do is try to figure out either whether we can figure it out with what we see or whether we can have the applicant come back to the staff and clean it up some and tell him what he would need to add on to it. And then we've done that as a conditional approval. I think we did that at our last meeting, where we conditionally approved it subject to the applicant doing certain things on the drawing.
Okay.
Are there specific things that you want to see that are not?
Well, I see the things in the diagram that I guess are not there at all. Things should be taken out. That would certainly make things easier. Make it very clear what's being added on. Do you have an entrance from the old building at the shed, or the entrance?
Yes,
to the
we do.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay, there will be okay.
Will the shed have exterior doors or just
Yes,
all
we'll
from
have a
the inside?
garage door and a regular door
Where's the garage door and the regular door going to be? In the back or the front?
on the back.
Okay.
On the front of the building, I'd like to put a window there.
Okay.
It would be helpful to get elevations, like if you sketched up kind of like, here's what you're thinking.
Yeah.
Or took a picture and drew a little bit extra on there,
Yeah.
something to explain what your intent is.
Is it a slope roof when you put the
Yes,
addition
it will
on?
be a slope roof.
It's a slope
Yes.
roof coming into it?
Yes.
Drainage, where is the current drainage on the roof right now?
Where does the water go when it comes off your roof?
Where's the water go?
They got gutter. That's
Does
it. And they go right on the ground,
Does it direct it towards the front or the back?
on
or-
the side, each side.
East.
Okay, so your roof slopes to the side and
Yes.
there's gutters along the sides?
Yep.
And that's going to continue to be,
The same thing.
Same thing.
now when you make the building 20 feet wider, your roof slope has got to...
No, the building is square, and I'm just gonna do like, let's roughly like 10 feet here, go to 8 feet over here, and that's it.
I got you.
So to
But the water runs off on the edge of your property, right?
Yes.
Runs right. So where does it go? I think that's a legitimate question. Yeah.
And right now, where the gutter catches the water on that edge of the house, and where does it direct it? Where does it go
Just
from
go on the
gutter?
ground, just go right on the ground, on the grass. The front of the building is all grass.
Okay.
Okay.
So it lets the water run out on the grass?
Yeah,
The same thing now with the new, with.
So you'd have a gutter at the end of your new building?
yes.
So our concern with that would be the water potentially, when you do a change to your site, you can't increase the runoff off your site onto another property. So this roof is going to be draining off towards the shed, the edge of the shed, which is 2 feet off of the
Yep.
property line. You're going to have a roof gutter there that drops down. You got a downspout dropping right there at the property line. We need some assurance that that water that's dropping at that property line isn't then drifting down into your neighbor's property.
It can't, because it's dirt over there. It's like, I don't know how to explain that. It's like it's all tree, and it's about that high. You know, all the dirt's about that high.
Your neighbor's yard's higher than yours?
Yes. Yep. I will say maybe 4 or 5 feet higher than me.
What's the will of the board on completeness?
I'll move we accept the application as substantially complete.
Is there a second for that motion?
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? 700 to determine that it's complete. Are there any waivers necessary as a part of this process?
What is one, a waiver, a full site?
Waiver,
Yeah,
full site
waiver
plan
of full
review.
site plan.
Okay. What's the will of the board with respect to the request to waive full site plan review?
I'm comfortable with it if we can get, tie it into the conditional approval, that we, get something that works for us. I don't have to go through the conversation here, but like you said, I'm comfortable with it.
Could I ask, sir, did you get a copy of the memo dated June 11th, 2015 from Mr. Thompson?
You don't want that one here?
No, that's
No?
the agenda, I think, actually. This is in a two-sided, two-piece paper which gives a list of all the things that you've got to do.
Yes, I will.
You've got it?
This?
No.
Not quite, almost.
Almost.
Getting there.
It's a two-sided piece of paper which tells you...
I do not have it, sir. Thank you.
Would you like to, given if you haven't got it before, we'd appreciate you reading it first before we make any further comments, I think.
What's everybody looking at? You got another plan in there?
No, I'm not looking at plan. I'm trying to see what the street view looks like.
Oh,
Yeah, it is quite a bit higher. Definitely a berm there.
Yep.
The whole building is sitting up on a retaining wall, though.
Yep, yep.
There's Google Earth view, so this is a retaining wall in
Right.
front of his building, and trees there.
Yep.
But I don't think they'll have a drainage
It's the
problem
things on the back page which are the really important ones.
For the benefit of the board, I was just looking at Google Earth and Lynn at Google Maps to verify what the applicant's saying with respect to the elevations, and it does appear to be the case that his site is quite a bit lower in elevation than his neighbor and
Yeah.
wouldn't have runoff going that way. I agree with the comments about getting some things cleaned up on the plan and removing the things that don't exist from the plan, so there isn't a suggestion that we're reapproving oil drains and all of that stuff. And so if we decide to take that final action, it's probably worthwhile to make that a condition of approval, to meet with the staff and get out the masking tape or whatever it takes to cover it up and get rid of the things that don't belong there and have it sort of reproduced in an accurate way. Other than drainage, I don't have a lot of concerns about the building since the height's pretty well dictated. It's not going to have a parking impact. It's not open for the public, so there's no traffic and all of that kind of thing, so.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about the parking, though. There's quite a few parking spaces shown on the rear of the site, and I wondered if they were there or whether they were used. Is that something you still want to use?
We got to use, but we only have like 5 vehicles.
Yeah, but the parking places exist as they are shown on this plan?
Is that parking lot paved behind your building, or is that gravel?
It's paved, but it's old.
Okay, so it's kind of beat up. I'm looking at
Yeah.
the satellite picture, which
Oh, I
kind
got you,
of
yeah.
shows a cleared area, but it can't tell whether it's paved or gravel.
No,
or-
it's paved and it's concrete, and I think the old owner tried to match it the best he can.
How many employees do you have?
About 30 employees.
30 employees?
Yeah, but we only have 3 employees work in the office. The rest work on the field.
Okay.
They don't park. They don't park in my building. They work in mass.
As it happens, the satellite picture has 5 cars shown on your lot, but they're not where the parking spaces are, but at least you got at least room for 5 cars there pretty easily.
Oh, we got room probably of 10 or 15 cars. The thing we do over there, it's another building behind me. It's a landscaping, keep it green. So
Yeah.
he don't have no land, so I let him park on my side.
Yeah.
Because he had no place to park his employee, so.
Does he access his property through yours?
Yes, you do.
So there's a right-of-way, is there a right-of-way through here, or?
Yeah, right across the southern edge of the
Oh, yeah, okay.
property.
I see it, I see it.
Okay.
He's a great neighbor.
Although the room is empty, let's get that bit of business out of the way. Are there any abutters or citizens who wish to weigh in? Seeing none, we close the public hearing. What's the will of the board with respect to waiving full site plan review? I know, Desiree, you commented, but did you actually make a motion?
I'll move that we waive full site plan review. On the strict circumstances relative to the site plan or conditions to the land and such site plan indicate that the waiver will carry out the spirit and intent of the regulations.
Is there a second for the motion to waive full site plan review? Second by Mr. Sebring. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? 700 to waive full site plan review. And that brings us to potentially final action or determining what kind of conditions might be appropriate for final action. We've discussed cleaning up the plan a little bit.
Well, Mr. Chairman, that is actually on the staff memo that Mr. Thompson, I think it was, wrote. If you look at item 8B, the applicant shall clarify the plan markups to clearly indicate things which is not clear from the current plan.
I think that comes 90% of the way. I think that we want to make sure that we're specifying that things that are shown on the plan that don't exist are removed.
Yes.
Well, then
Yes.
I would be happy to,
I think
yeah.
you should add that. Yeah, remove the things that aren't there.
And well, we could add on to that and remove obsolete items.
Yeah, or just
That's clean.
modify the plan to show what you actually intend to build.
Yes. Yeah,
What's
that
there?
works too.
So,
Yeah.
okay. So Desiree's moved. Is there a second for Desiree's motion? Did I miss that already? Jeff did. Got that. All in favor of waiving full site plan review, say aye.
Yes. Aye.
Final action.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we grant final approval, subject to all the conditions that are on the memo dated June the 11th from Mr. Thompson, plus the points that we have made about bringing the plan up to date as possible, removing items which don't exist, so it's clear for the future what this is actually on the site.
Second for Mr. Milne's motion.
I'll second.
Second by Lynn. Any discussion?
I have one comment that I just wanted to say. Zoning board gave you the 2 feet. You're allowed to be 2 feet from the property line. Building code, which isn't us, but building code is going to have some construction restrictions for that, because you're close to that property line, so you'll have to deal with that when you go to do your construction types with your building permit. You're
Yes.
going to need to make it probably a rated exterior wall
Yeah.
through there. So just a suggestion.
Thank you for that. Any other comments or questions? All in favor of conditional final approval, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? You are approved. And I
So
apologize
help
for
me
the
out. Where's my
30-second
next step?
rewind there and voting twice. What's that?
Where's my next step? Get a permit?
Go talk to
down.
Donna and these guys to get your
Tomorrow,
plan
we'll
cleaned
be
up.
sending you a decision letter with all the steps for you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you. Item 6 on our agenda is Robert Lavoie as the applicant and Greg R. Kennedy as the owner. Review for acceptance and consideration of final approval of an application for a 2-lot minor subdivision. The parcel is located at 8 Fuller Mill Road in the R1 Residential District, Tax Map 4B, Lot 153. You should all have at your place an email requesting an extension to
July
7th. Is that right?
Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman, I make a motion we grant an extent, we will table this item till the July the 7th meeting at 7:30?
7:30.
7:30 in this room, and there will be no notification to abutters of that.
Is there a
of any
second for
further-
Alistair's motion? Second by Desiree. Donna, what were you trying to work in there?
Emily was just going to give you a background, but that's okay.
Emily, please do.
It's okay, everything was already said, so.
Everything's already been said? Okay.
Not yet. I have some things to say.
Nelson, what do you got?
Can we table a plan we haven't accepted? Question. You know, we have not accepted this plan, and I'm not advocating that we do, because I think it's got some problems that are inherent.
I don't think
Yep.
we're tabling the
We're
plan. I think
continuing.
we're continuing the discussion.
Continuing the discussion. Is that what the motion is? Then I will.
Tabling the application.
Tabling or continuing the application?
Continuing.
Continuing the applications. Okay,
Continue.
thank you.
Okay.
Continuing the application.
Okay,
Which
Thank
we
you
have
for-
not decided to accept.
Correct.
Okay.
which we should not.
No.
Any other discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? 700 to continue that one. Item 7 on our agenda is the John J. Flatley Company as the applicant and owner. Review for acceptance and consideration of final approval of an application for a site plan to construct 240 multifamily residential clubhouse and associated parking and drainage improvements per the requirements of the Flatley mixed-use conditional use permit. The parcels are located at 645, 673, 685, 703, and 707 DW Highway in the I-1 Industrial, Aquifer Conservation, and Wellhead Protection Districts. Tax Map 6E, Lot 3-1, 3-3, 3-4, 3-5, and 3-6. And this is another one where the applicants requested a continuance. Don, is there anything that we need to know before we take up the continuance request?
No, staff pointed out that the subdivision or site plan cannot be accepted by the planning board until the CUP is signed off on, and it has not gotten final approval, so that's why they're requesting the continuance.
Now, the CUP's final approval is an issue of a development agreement with the town?
Correct, so
And
we're
so
working through that.
It's not a planning board issue as
Right.
much as them
Right.
doing some other things. Okay, what's the will of the board?
I make a motion we continue as requested till June the 16th.
July-
July the 15th meeting at 7:30 p.m.
Is it July 15th or
Seventh.
July some?
It says
July 7th.
wanted the second one.
The second July meeting is the
the
one they asked
second
for,
July
which is.
meeting.
It's not on this letter, yeah.
Yeah, it did.
July
16th,
21st.
July the 23rd will be
21st.
7:30
The
p.m. in
last
this room.
scheduled- it says the
21st.
last
21st.
scheduled planning board
Yeah,
hearing date in
okay,
July.
so.
Okay, so
help
July
me out.
23rd is the one we
21st.
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 Learn how to
21st
speak.
of July.
7 and 14
Yeah,
is
7:14 is 21, yes. So July the
Yeah, we could just rely on the calendar here, of course, I'm
Yeah,
way back in June. Is there a second for Alistair's motion to continue this item to July 21st?
Nelson.
Nelson seconds the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? 700. Unanimous kind of night tonight. Item 8 on our agenda is discussion and possible action regarding other items of concern. There was a listed there potential establishment of a performance bond for Tomasian Cluster Subdivision, but that is not ready for our action tonight. And so there are no listed items. Does anyone have any items of concern that they want to propose or bring forward?
Mr. Chairman, would it be worth mentioning that as a result of the communication between your good self and Mr. Tenhave, the August the 8th meeting will be a joint meeting of the Conservation Commission and this board with a list of things. I know Mr. Thompson sent you a memo asking for certain things to be brought forward or ideas to be brought forward, and I'm sure we'll do that.
Yeah, I think that maybe we'll discuss what those items were at one of our July meetings and kind of fill in. But essentially the Conservation Commission, in addition to the soils presentation from Pete, wants to discuss the kinds of things that they've been recommending to us with straw and fertilizer and no salt, and wondering if there are any other things that we think that they should look at, and that's sort of an agenda. So, which I think is a very...
What was the date that was?
August 8th.
August 8th.
August 8th is a Saturday, according to my calendar.
Probably won't be that big.
It would be the 4th if you're sticking with Tuesdays.
Well, whatever date I got, I don't.
Yeah, Tuesday, August 4th.
4th, sorry.
Tuesday, August 4th. Yep.
And I only thought I did that.
No, I do it all the time. Go anywhere with the calendar.
Oh, no.
Are there any other discussion or possible action regarding other items of concern? There being none, that brings us to the approval of the minutes of our June 2nd, 2015 meeting.
I move that we approve the meeting minutes as written.
Motion to approve as written. Is there a second by Ms. Christensen?
You've got to be... Go on, Nelson.
It's
you
just
have first
putting it
dibs.
on the table.
Okay.
All right, who
No,
wants to be
you will
first?
be glad when you see what I've got here. I really do, these are very good minutes. Considering the length and the amount of detail in them, I really compliment the people who prepared these minutes. But I did have a question on page 13 of the minutes. And that gives you an idea of the scope of these things. On line 33, the commission looked at the wetland crossing. This was the wetland crossing where they put in 2 round culverts, and they were asking for, the Conservation Commission was requesting box culverts. It says, although he recognizes the commission's point of view, he is unwilling to simply make that change at this time. This is Mr. Clinton talking. He noted that such a change may be triggered through pending wetland comments from New Hampshire DES. Then it says, if that recommendation appears on their list, it will be addressed at that time. If they propose that, they would have to have some level of turnaround at an alternative location. And it just does not make design and construction sense to do it in any other location. Now,
Something's out of place there.
it looks like a line got dropped here or something, because they don't come together. The issue with the box culvert, I think, is for critter passage, and he talks about that a little bit. But
Yeah, this turnaround thing
but
is
the
the
critters
phasing
aren't
discussion
turning
with
around.
how much road you build at a time, and they've got some flat spots in their geography that they can use efficiently for turnarounds, which is what they planned, and it doesn't make design sense to do it in any other location, I think is the finishing thought there. But how do we get that back over wherever it belongs with the phasing discussion?
I don't have a recommendation because I wasn't sure what they were talking about. You know, I don't know if we can go back to the tape. Is there tapes of the meetings and get that clear, what
Sure.
was
Staff can
intended?
clarify that.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, that's probably the easiest way, is have the staff verify and make the appropriate.
And advise us at the next meeting what the revision was. I'd accept it that way. That will pass. We'll agree to approve the minutes with that correction that will be made by staff, and the staff will advise the board what the correction was.
Sure.
Sounds good
Okay.
to me. You have more?
That's all.
Could I
Really?
toss my tuppence in? Page 3, line 19. Member Milnes stated agreement. It is difficult to put 2 and 2 together. I'm not quite sure what. I think that's a little bit of English that could be corrected.
Line what?
19.
19.
I'm sure he didn't say that.
I didn't say it either. No, I know I didn't. Very strictly, page 7, line 34, not either, I don't think is really very good English. I think we normally say neither, not either, but yeah, I suppose it's not. It's only being pedantic on that one.
You are.
On page 15, line 2, Mr. Milnes responded. Actually, he responded that they would be the recommended yellow signs. No, actually, I asked if they'd be the yellow signs.
Yeah, requested, yeah.
Then There's another one which I'm going to find. Yes, here we are on page 16, line 20. It's talking about provider vans. It should be a capital P because provider is a company that provides special need vans for special needs children. I would think that should be a capital P because it's the name of a company.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'm more than happy, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Does anybody else have any suggested changes? Donna, you're clear on everything we need to do?
got it.
All right. All in favor of approving them as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? 700 for approval of the minutes, which brings us to item 10 on our agenda, which is our adjournment.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second
Second.
by Mr. Disco. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? We are adjourned. Don't forget to turn your microphone off, and thank you, everyone.